Oh, thanks. That's you, Bob.
Yes, Dad.
Got it. What's this about you being late for a school project?
Well, I am.
What happens if you don't get it done?
Be kept in, Dad, or lose marks.
Mm-hmm. How long have you got?
Only a week. It has to be in next Wednesday.
A week? You look like losing those marks. Oh, well, it isn't Wednesday yet. What's the subject?
What the government does, the Commonwealth Government.
Oh, there should be plenty to say about that.
Yes, Dad, Mr. Burke's told us a lot in class. I've done one page. People elect the Parliament. That's the real government. It's in two parts, the House of Representatives and the Senate. Then, at the top, is the Governor-General, and he stands for the Queen.
Oh, that looks a good start. Now, what comes next?
Well, that's the Commonwealth Government. What does it do? I think that's next.
Fair enough. Some things it does you can see for yourself. The postman. He's a public servant doing a Commonwealth job.
And the policeman?
Yes. No, not Commonwealth. He's state. The state governments do a lot, too. Things like, education, water supply, roads, railways.
Yes, Mr. Burke's told us that. And about local government, the health inspector. But I'm stuck with the Commonwealth. Who else is there?
I can tell you one other lot. The taxation people. They're on the job, all right.
There must be more than tax and postmen. Lighthouses. They're right around the coast. And they'd be Commonwealth.
And REPAT, the Repatriation Department. They fix treatment for me. War injuries.
Do you think Bob will finish that project in time, John?
Well, he'll have to work. I suppose that means we'll all have to. What about you, Helen? Can you tell us something about the Commonwealth Public Service?
That check you cashed for Mrs. Milrose, the baby bonus. Wasn't that the Department of Social Services?
Yes. That's another one, Bob.
Joan, you're the one.
Of course. Lucky your aunt's here tonight, Bob.
Why me?
Well, you're the expert on Commonwealth Public Service. After all, you're in it.
I can tell you my department, civil aviation.
And who's your boss?
Well, the chief public servant in my department is the Director General. But every department has a member of Parliament at the top, the minister he's called. Ours is the Minister for Civil Aviation.
Well, there's something more, Bob.
Yes, but...
Next week,
next week it'd be too late. I've got to be finished by Wednesday. Could you get something this week and tomorrow? Books are good, or pamphlets. One of the other fellows got a whole stack of pictures for his project that way.
I'll see what there is. My way home tomorrow, I'll drop in anything I find.
Wait, Scott, Joan must have robbed every department for you. Have you got what you want?
Gosh, there's a lot. I never knew there were so many different things the Commonwealth did. Look, here's the lightkeeper we were talking about.
Oh, yes.
Department of Shipping and Transport. I'm putting a lot of these in my book. Here are men mapping Australia. They're in the Department of National Development.
Had a bit of a job clearing out here today, but we managed it. PMG testing.
Prime Minister's Department, Saunders speaking.
That's the angle we're taking in the Department of Primary Industry.
Have you got it all settled now?
These pictures will make a good page. But it's hard to see how it all fits in, how it makes a government. And gosh, it's 5 days to go.
Well, it looks easy to me. You've got Parliament deciding what's to be done and the public service to do it. Isn't that simple enough?
Yes, but...
Hey, Jeff, you managed that very neatly, Bob.
Here's the lightkeeper at Matsyker Island. Well, how could Parliament know he's got his light burning properly?
Well, I suppose the public service is the same as any other big business. The lightkeeper has a boss who's in charge of probably all the lighthouses in Tasmania. Your man here reports to his Tasmanian boss, and he reports to the chief of the department, and the chief reports to the minister. Will that do?
Yes, I'll put it in.
Hold on. Perhaps we'd better check with Joan on that first. Find out what happens in her department.
Can I help you?
Yes, please. Miss Wilson, she's taken me to see Mr. Hammond.
Mr. Hammond? Oh, well, I'll take along myself. This way.
Gosh, you do a lot here.
Now, this is just part of it. A headquarters for the state. We've got men at branches and airports all over Australia. Oh, if you could...
Hello, Bob.
Hello.
Thank you, Rich.
It's nothing, Miss Wilson.
Mr. Hammond will see us right away, Bob. He's in the airport's drawing office here.
Okay with you, Harry?
Fine. I'll have it run off.
Jim, will you get the admin detail in hand this afternoon?
I've got my university lecture this afternoon, Mr. Hammond. Economics.
Oh, yes. How long before you're ready to run the country?
By the end of the year. If I pass. I could do it in the morning, though.
Good. Do that. Thanks.
Mr. Hammond, I brought Bob Blake along.
So you're the lad who wants to know how everything ticks.
Yes, Mr. Hammond.
Well, we're shooting out to the airport in a few minutes. Like to come?
Gosh, yes. Thank you.
Right. Before we start, I'll show you just what our job there was. We had to make Kingsford Smith Airport at Mascot into an international air terminal. We got all the latest information, tried to estimate what would happen in the future. The two old runways, here and here, had to go. The new runways were longer, 5,500 feet and 8,000 feet here. And 8,000 feet landed us right in the middle of Cook's River. So we had to have the river shifted over to here. And then there were these taxiways for the planes to move on the ground. And other things, of course. New buildings, aprons for the planes to stand outside the terminals, and a new control tower. And all the time, the airport stayed open for planes landing and taking off. So we had to plan carefully. To get all the facts, we talked with everyone concerned, airline companies and so on. Some government departments came into the picture right at the start. The Department of Immigration needs accommodation for checking immigration procedures, passports and so on. The Department of External Affairs often has men at the airport meeting overseas visitors. Customs and Excise Department is on the job too, collecting more than £1 million a year on goods coming in through the airport. And the Health Department doctor looks after quarantine, makes sure that no one brings infectious diseases into the country. If you forget one detail, you can land yourself in real trouble. The draft plans were drawn up in our department. Every man along the line, from the most junior up, has his decisions to make. And the final responsibility rests with our head, the Director General of Civil Aviation. He keeps the Minister informed so that he can be sure that work ordered is being done. All government departments have their own job to do, usually for the public, but they work for other departments too. Quite a few were concerned in the airport reconstruction. Treasury to begin with. They make money available from the amount voted by Parliament, and watch that we don't spend too much. The Attorney General's Department advise on legal points that crop up, and legal points always do crop up. The Commonwealth Employment Service, that's Department of Labour and National Service, had information about men to do the work and where to find them. When our draft plans were approved, the whole job was handed over to the Department of Works to make detailed plans for the runways and buildings. We had to buy the land we needed, and that was done through what you could call the Commonwealth Government's estate agent, the Department of the Interior. Then there's the Postmaster General. We couldn't work without communications, post and telegraph, telephone. Customs and Excise Department helped us too, arranging for the import of special gear we needed from overseas. Of course, it wasn't only the Commonwealth Government concerned. The state government did a lot. When the river was diverted, a complete drainage channel had to be moved. Other jobs for the state government were to provide main services, power and water, and transport for people on the job. Then there were the private contractors doing their own sections. Everyone had to be told exactly what his work was and supplied with the right material and equipment. On a job this size, that's a lot of people, a lot of material, and a lot of equipment. But we managed. It's pretty well finished. The biggest planes flying regular international services can land at Sydney Airport now.
Gosh, there's an awful lot to an airport, isn't there?
There certainly is. When you take in all branches, our department has 500 people working here.
And they're all public servants.
Yes. Of course, we have private contractors working for us, too. I told you about that. You can see there's more to being a public servant than sitting behind a desk filling in forms, and more to government than talking in Parliament.
But Parliament doesn't come into this at all. I mean, we're taught that people rule the country, and I'm one of the people, aren't I?
Yes, you don't vote yet, but you will. Your father does.
Where does he come into it?
Let's look at the whole layout. At the top, there's the Queen, represented in Australia by the Governor-General. Now, to advise him, there's what we call the Federal Executive Council, made up of all the ministers in charge of departments, all of them elected members of Parliament. Now, when a bill is passed by Parliament and sent to the Governor-General, he signs it, and it becomes a law. The minister concerned with the law tells his department what he wants done, and the department does it. So eventually, because the Governor-General signed the law, I'm here. Something else on your mind?
Yes, Mr. Hammond. How do laws get to Parliament in the first place?
Not laws, Bob, bills. Bills become laws when Parliament's passed them and the Governor-General signs them.
How do bills get to Parliament?
Oh, the first suggestion can come from anywhere. Your father, perhaps, or a member of Parliament, or a public servant like me. In any case, the suggestion goes to the minister. He refers it to his department, where fellows like me collect the facts to advise the minister. He discusses the matter with Cabinet. Cabinet's a group of senior ministers. With Cabinet approval, a bill is drafted in the Attorney General's department. The bill goes to Parliament, where it's debated, and passed to the Governor-General. He signs it in the name of the Queen, and there you are. Back where we started with the law. Making the pace too hot?
Oh, no, I've got to be finished by Wednesday. May I make a note of that?
Go ahead. Yeah?
Thank you. Governor-General, Executive Council, Minister. Second last. With that page you've got there, we'll have the whole book.
Are you sure of that?
Yes. Why?
Because I haven't seen any mention of how it all started, the history of the thing.
Oh.
Does that matter?
Yes. Gosh, I wonder who I could ask.
I know. Before 1900, Australia was 6 separate colonies. The people voted in 1899 to become a federation, the Commonwealth of Australia.
Where did you get all that?
Anyone educated knows that. As a matter of fact, I got interested in this project of Bob's, and I found the book about it at the library. Here it is. Everything you want.
Will you need any illustrations, Bob?
Oh, yes.
What sort?
Oh, on the Crown, Parliament House, the Queen. That sort of thing, isn't it, Dad?
Yes.
I've got some of them, but, well, not many.
I know. Those Royal Tour souvenirs we had. They're full of things like that.
Of course. And the School Jubilee book, too. Where are they?
That's the problem. Let me think. Oh, in the trunk in the back room with the suitcase on top of the wardrobe. They might be anywhere. Well, let's all look.
Oh, you found them. If we're going to get through this thing tonight, we'll have to split up the work. Helen, suppose you and Bob go through the pictures.
Right.
I'll tell Jane what we want for the story, and she can do the typing.
Right.
I suppose we start with Federation. A Commonwealth Public Service without a Commonwealth. An act to constitute the Commonwealth of Australia. Of course, that was an act of Parliament in London.
I found a picture of that here anyway.
Good, we'll need that. Under that act, Queen Victoria proclaimed the Commonwealth. The first duty of the Parliament of the Commonwealth is to make laws for the peace, order and good government of Australia. At the head of Parliament is Elizabeth II, Queen of the Dominion of Australia. The two houses of Parliament are the Senate and the House of Representatives. From these elected members are chosen the ministers in charge of all government departments, the Queen's Ministers of State for the Commonwealth. They make up the Executive Council, which has the duty of advising the Queen's representative in Australia, the Governor-General. Laws passed must be maintained and safeguarded, and for this the Commonwealth has its judiciary, the High Court of Australia, established by the Constitution, and other courts like the Industrial Courts and the Bankruptcy Court. Parliament makes the laws, the judiciary guards the laws, the executive puts them into action. It is more than 50 years since the first Parliament of the Commonwealth met. The armies, taken over in 1901, have grown to the three services we know today. The Commonwealth responsibility has spread beyond Australia, so that today, in places as distant as Papua and Antarctica, you will find public servants at work developing Australian overseas territory. The aim of the work is still the same as when the Constitution was first framed: the peace, order and good government of the Commonwealth.
Please? I didn't quite mean that.
Well, can you see how the government works now, Bob?
I think so. It's really a straight line. From people to the Parliament to the Queen. Then from the Queen, the Governor-General, to the Executive Council, with the High Court as judiciary. From the Executive Council to the Minister in charge of a department, and then to the people working in the departments, the public service.
And you got it all finished?
Yes, Mum, and just in time. Gosh, I had to work on this.
You had to work?
Well, we all had to work. Anyway, it's done now.